Oh, the Tinder sluts are angry at me. That last episode, even though it hasn't been released, I'm sure once it was released on the internet, captured fire like Khloe and Kim Kardashian's photos and Paris Hilton's sex tape and Steve Irwin's death. I appreciate you guys featuring me on TMZ. I really enjoyed being on Tucker Carlson last night to talk about dating and relationships and the new millennial. All of this is complete and total bullshit. We're still sitting here in Las Vegas because planes do not leave on time when they're supposed to. We're still sitting in our robes, waiting for a friend of ours that's local to text us to go to a place where she literally said the bar and the restaurant are separate locations. And don't worry, even though their average crowd is 60 plus years of age,
yeah,
they might get a little rowdy. I'm like, okay. I think I'll break Grandpa's good hip if I need to. I'm not too worried about that. So we were actually supposed to record this episode on the last episode, but Timmy, with Uncle, story time with Uncle Tim, got deep into the deep cuts with Tinder and dating. And ultimately, what I hope people took away from that episode was just, be you. And I think that's a great lead in to what we're talking about today. And that is success. And this has been something that for the past 2 years has rocked me to my emotional core and well-being. I mean, this has been the toughest part of my legal case. So let me explain. To keep this episode individual and holistic in case someone doesn't go back all the way to the first episode to find out, what legal case? I hired a company to do some work for me. I believe that they did a really shitty job about it. I tried to resolve it privately. They stopped responding. I went public with my grievances. They sued me somehow through the incompetence displayed in Judge Les Hatch's court. They were able to get a verdict against me, and despite us protesting that and trying to do every legal maneuver possible to actually get my day in court because they passed judgment on me without me being present or 1 second of recorded testimony. They didn't care about COVID. They didn't care about any of that. And as a result, short story long, I basically have lost everything, right? Now you know that critical part. Let's go back 10 years prior. I mentioned, I've been married before, twice divorced, right? Can't figure out how to do it to save my life. And it even starts even back before then, really, when you think about living back home. Like, my parents are very simple and practical people. I made the decision to start off the new year in Vegas because I wanted to get out of Lubbock. I wanted to come do some work. I wanted to start recording these podcasts and batch them and do this, that, and the other thing. To my parents, this would be the most wasteful thing ever. My dad, who I love to death, I can't take him anywhere nice because if he sees a high price tag on a food thing, he's always like, well, what's the cheapest thing? I mean, this man will not valet park in Vegas, which is free, by the way, if you've never been here, because he doesn't want to tip the $5 required to do that. So those are the mental imprints of doing that, right? And my parents are wonderful people, and I love them, and I appreciate everything that they've provided for me and done for me and all that great stuff. But some of those, my dad's a 9-to-5 guy. He's a hard worker, doesn't take time off, go, 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 go. Has provided for his family, married my mom when she had 3 kids. He never wanted to have kids, has been an amazing stepfather, in some ways better than my own biological father was to me. That's another Jerry Springer episode. But you learn from your parents and you see how they act. My dad is very, very much go with the flow. Don't raise any red flags. Don't get us in trouble here.
Don't post any Tinder
yeah.
pictures.
Oh my God, no. Yeah. Don't get a shirt made up with your ex-wife's photo on it. I'm sure there are things that he sees. Oh, well, actually, this is a perfect example. So, probably about 6 or 7 years ago, I thought it would be a good idea to do a JV video a joint venture video where I was pretending somebody was calling me on the phone. Now, for people that aren't familiar with what I do, I sell shit on the internet. Joint ventures is basically like Sue has an email list. I have an email list. I go, hey, Sue, I got this cool product X. I want you to promote it as an affiliate or a joint venture. She goes, great.
Yep.
She promotes it.
Give me a piece of the pie.
She gets some money. I get some money. High five.
We're all happy.
And they also do these things called launches. And launches are when you launch a brand new product. Think of like the iPhone, whatever is out currently. They launch it. It's a big media day. They have a bunch of websites covering it. All of these things. Well, the same thing happens in the affiliate world. It's like I release a new product and 20 people mail out about it, okay? It's great. It's awesome. I've built most of my career off of that. The downside of doing something like that, I promise there's a point to the story, is that it's very incestuous, and it's very much like, what have you done for me lately? You know, what are all of, you know, what is it that you can do for me?
Yeah, you better promote my stuff.
Right. And,
time.
you know, you call these people, oh, hey, bro, you know, oh, that's my brother online. And it's like, they're not your brother. You know, nobody called me from my affiliate circle, or I should say with maybe one or two exceptions. Nobody called me when my wife left me. One of my, what I would consider one of my best and closest friends in the internet marketing space, someone who we had literally vacationed together as husband and wife and couples for multiple years together, never once picked up the phone after my wife left me. And a year later, I called him because I was a little upset about that. And I was just like, hey, man, where the fuck were you when I really needed you the most? And he responded to me, well, Tim, do you remember when I published this book a couple years ago? Yeah, you emailed out your list twice with no affiliate link, meaning that I got no money for it. I just did it as a favor to my friend who, again, vacation, all that stuff. But you didn't post a photo of you on social media holding the book. And that's why when my wife left me, he didn't bother to call and reach out. So do you think we were friends? No, we were joint venture partners. So getting back to it, right? So that's joint venture in a nutshell. I decided to make a video because you only ever hear from people when they're launching, you know, we're not bros, it's just business associates, yada, yada, yada. So I made a funny video, and I was like, you know, pretending someone called, and I was all off-put, like, oh, God, this guy again, you know? And I think one of the throwaway lines was like, bro, like, you tried to sleep with my mom. Like, what are you talking about? So I don't think anything of it. I think it's hilarious. It's my 12-year-old brain and humor. I post it 6 o'clock in the morning. I'm up. My phone rings. Dad. And I'm like, oh, I'm like, well,
really?
I'm like, mom might have passed away. I don't know what's going on. Like, I've never got a call at 6 a.m. from my dad. Like, well, you know, so I was up, so I answered, and he was like, I was like, hello. And he goes, I saw your video. I was like, okay. He's like, take that down immediately. And I was like, oh, shit. Now, listen, ladies and gentlemen, at that time, I was probably like 28, maybe early 30s. I'm 42 right now, okay? And I'm just now getting to the point where I feel like I might be able to take my father in a physical altercation. But back then, there was no way. I mean, the hulking, I was just like, well, I'm going to get killed, you know? And there's just, I don't know, there's something about when dad calls, you know, and you're like, like,
what have I done?
Yeah, I was like, oh, shit, this is never like a, hey, you're doing really well and I love you and appreciate it. It's like, hey, your mother's crying because you didn't call her on Mother's Day, you fucking inconsiderate 21-year-old prick. You know, and you're like, all right, Dad. And he's like, no, let me be clear. If you ever make your mother cry again on Mother's Day, like, I'll kill you because I have to deal with this. And you're like, oh, I get it. So, yeah, so I get the call from my dad. I take it down, right? Because my dad's just, he doesn't want any waves. He doesn't see the humor in that. He doesn't think it's funny. Like, I think it's hilarious. Or like joint venture partners think it might be hilarious, right? So 8 years ago, I meet my girlfriend, then fiance, then wife. And what I had learned from my father, who, you know, is a pretty meek guy, is that you take care of your family, you know? You go to school, you graduate, you meet somebody, you fall in love, you spend every waking second together, you dote on that person constantly, you are in more of a submissive role in there, like, you know, anything to make you happy, sweetheart, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. All of those things, you know, you learn from your parents. But one of the things that my dad always has been a great provider in taking care of the family. And, you know, gotta have cars, gotta have a house, gotta have. Well, that got out of hand when I was a teenager, and they ended up having to file bankruptcy. So I learned all of this stuff, just like you do as a kid, from your upbringing. You know, I learned what I thought a relationship should be by watching how my parents were. You know, my ex would be like, it's like, you want to spend all our time together. And it's like, well, that's what my parents do. Like, I can't tell you the last time I've seen one of my parents one-on-one, you know, except for like when my dad comes back here. But like, I've never been like, hey, Dad, do you want to just go have lunch? Like, it's like, yeah, me and Mom would like to have lunch with you, you know? So financially, you know, you see those goals, you see what your parents do, society puts it on you. Well, you got to go to college. Well, you know, so I did it. I climbed the ladder. And there's nothing wrong with it, Graduated high school, check. Didn't know what I wanted to go into college, so I went in the military, check. Okay, now college, check. All right, first job out of college, great, Now let's buy a house, all right? Now let's save, let's, do all these things. What I have realized is I was doing that for other people. Don't get me wrong. I like having a house. I like having safety, security, not worrying about financial stuff. But I was doing all of this because I thought that's what you had to do. I remember, and this is how naive and sheltered in some ways and just awkward I was as a kid. Like, I remember being in high school and one of my friends, not even a friend, like an associate, got his girlfriend pregnant. Now, for those of you who are like, yeah, so what? Like half the girls in my high school were pregnant. This was back when getting a girl pregnant in high school was like heresy. Like they sent her to like another school. Like it was
Big deal.
the one pregnant chick in the school instead of like there are literally childcare classes in some of the high schools in Texas because so many of the mothers have kids. So just to give you an idea, it's like when you have to explain to your kids in 20 years about what you used to do to have to buy weed. You're like, yeah, I had to go to a stranger's house and like pray to God we didn't get robbed or
one
shot.
One person will wait in the car.
Right? Yeah.
You wait here, I'll go.
Yeah, honk the horn if you see any type of shit versus like, well, I just went down to 7-Eleven and bought a joint. So just understand to give you that kind of idea. And I remember going to him, I was like, well, I mean, that's cool. So like you guys are going to get married, right? And he was like, what are you talking about? He's like, I'm 16. He's like, no, we're not going to get married. He's like, we'll raise the kid. But like, I just was like, oh, you're pregnant, so you're marrying her, right? Like that was just an assumed thing. I didn't know there was a plan B, or in this case, a plan C,
well.
I was like, well,
they didn't do the plan
They didn't
B.
have plan B back then, or there wouldn't have been plan A or C. So it's just a weird thing that you learn these things through watching other people, and again, that becomes your vision of success. And please don't misunderstand me. I was very proud of the success I was able to build and the safety I felt like I was building for me. And honestly, more for my ex-wife. She came from a very rough upbringing. I remember the first time she spent the night at my house, she took like an hour and a half long shower. And like I walked in and I was like, is everything okay? Like, are you cutting your wrist in there? Like, was the sex that bad? And she was like, we just have a bath at our house.
Wow.
And when we were really poor, we would just fill up the bathtub with the hottest water, and then it was like the old family, older brother, younger brother.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, like I went to this house. Trust me, it was a shithole, right? I mean, she was paying 25% interest on a Dell laptop from like 1983. Had like 18% interest on a Chevy Cavalier. Like it just was terrible financially and stuff like that. So for me to be able to go and be able to pay off a house at 31, and relax, guys, we're not talking about lifestyles of rich and famous. This was a ghetto house in a ghetto neighborhood, but it was still my house. And being able to say, hey, at 31 years of age, no matter what, we always will have this house. Life later would prove that to be wrong, but in that moment I thought about it, and it was like, okay, well, I really want to travel the world, but I'm with you, so I'm not going to do that because, we're married and I should wait for you. And eventually, one day, you'll get to the point where you'll be like, fuck this job. I want to, go do the things that you want to do. And that never came because that's not who she was as a person. But I still felt like, well, so we pay off house number one, right? Now, I don't know, for any guys out there, maybe you can commiserate with me. There's something about when you make that final house payment and you tell your wife, babe, listen, this house is paid off. They immediately go on to Zillow.com and start looking for the upgraded house, right? It's like, well, that's cool. We paid the first one off. Where are we going to live now? And you're like, but I just put a $7,000 fence around the area and all of this. And they're like, no, I get it. But where are we moving? So we moved to a bigger house. And again, I didn't mind. Nicer neighborhood, all the trappings of success. Let's get nice cars. Let's get all these things. And then you get to a point where you're like, I've got plenty of money in the bank. I've got financial security. I don't have stress. I have all the things that they say you need to get. I have all the tokens, all the prizes, and I feel empty as shit. Or I feel like I'm living a life for somebody else. I don't need multiple homes. I'm not a Rockefeller. I don't want to be a Rockefeller. It's just one of those things. And what this court case has forced me to do is reevaluate myself as a man and more importantly, reevaluate what I consider success to be. So in the past, because I didn't have a definite version of success in my mind. The other thing is I was very agreeable to whatever the hot thing in the marketplace was. I mean, I started a business partnership with a guy. We met one time for lunch, and I was like, well, all my friends are getting partners. I need to get a partner. Let's partner up.
Of course.
And that's, of course, what sent me to therapy the first time, because I thought it was an issue with him. Turns out it was my bullshit, which is, by the way, something to take to heart. Sometimes you think, oh, it's this person, you get in therapy, and you're like, oh, that had nothing to do with this person. That had something to do with in my childhood, right? So I did that because I thought that's what you did, right? Successful people had partnerships. I want to be successful. This is the next ladder to climb. This is the next box to check. Let's do a partnership. That flamed out spectacularly. Then I'm like, everyone's doing e-com stores. I'd like to do an e-com store, not because I really give a shit about it, but because I want to try it out. They're like, do you want to do it in like knitting supplies? I'm like, sure, because it makes money, not because I give a shit about it at all. So I built it. Then it got burnt to the ground. Then it cost me everything through the lawsuit with the service provider, Kevin O'Connor and the offline assistant company, right? And all of that happened from that e-com store that I just was bored and I wanted to try something. I saw other people's success. Right now, NFTs and crypto and, blockchain currency. And you don't understand, if you put $2 into the Ethernet, then you'll get $1 million back tomorrow. If I did not know what my level of success was, then I would be in that space. But I'm able to now go, that's good for them, but it's not good for me. And that is absolutely critical. We have great friends in our internet marketing space, like Russell Brunson, who probably has, what did he say how many hundreds of employees did he say last time? I'll tell you this. I remember specifically, I don't think it was this last one, but it was the one before. It was several hundred people. Yeah. But I remember he said he had 17 people just in their marketing department.
Yes.
Now, think about that. I'm going against Russell Brunson, one person, against 17 full-time employees and Russell Brunson and Dave, right? So in the past, you go, well, okay, ClickFunnels, man, that'd be really awesome. Maybe I should, build software and then build a huge staff and build a huge infrastructure and have a huge monthly nut and always have to be on. I mean, this man works harder than any man that I've ever seen in the industry.
I agree. He puts out more content. He's amazing. He's like a workhorse.
Well, you remember the first year Tony Robbins came to speak, he literally finished his whole 4-day seminar, had Tony Robbins speak, and then him and Tony Robbins went up to the penthouse and recorded videos for Tony Robbins' book launch or whatever.
Yes.
He was launching something like that. I mean, that's what I mean. And for Russell, that is what he is called to do. Okay, this is his life mission. This is what he wants to do. And it's such a blessing for him.
Right.
That would make me shit blood and have ulcers the size of my forehead thinking about the monthly responsibility and what happens when the wheels come off. And the problem is when you build something like that, and I don't wish any ill will on Russell or anything like that, when it turns fast.
Yeah, you can't just walk away from it. You got to be on, you know?
You have a slow month where you're losing money. Okay, cool. You still have 300 people's payroll to make, whether you're doing good or bad. So in the old days, I definitely would have been like, oh man, okay, everyone's doing, agencies. That was the big thing,
Ugh,
and because people don't, it's like, all right, well, let me hire a bunch of Filipino outsourcers. What could go wrong with it, So if you don't have your own idea of what success is, other people will give you their idea and you'll go, oh, that sounds good. I'd like to be like that. And then you get into it and you're like, I don't like this shit at all. We were talking about it last night. Sue was like, do you do jujitsu still? And I'm like, listen, we were doing choke drills often. I'd go home with headaches. And then one day I was like, three things. One, I don't like fighting. Two, I don't have a killer instinct where I'm like, hey, random person, I want to choke you unconscious. And three, like I kind of need what few brain cells I have that aren't THC infused to work. And I don't need them being dissipated by doing choke drills constantly and repetitively on that. So I made a decision to leave because that was no longer something that I felt was, part of my success journey. Now, where it gets hard, and I will say this from a man's point of view, I'm sorry, even though it's 2022, I'm not transgender. I don't have any female hormones coursing through my body, so I can only speak from the male experience. But being the breadwinner, being a status-driven guy, I mean, there was a point where I was playing in poker games weekly with CEOs of, $25 million plus companies. There were times when, I had a bookkeeper that was $300 a month, when it went from, I remember the first time I came here to Vegas, it was like I stayed at the El Cortez Hotel, which guaranteed a sinus infection with every check-in. Now it's like, well, is it 4 stars? Is it 5 stars? If you allow that lifestyle creep, it happens. And I don't give a shit. It's cool. It's fun. I like doing those things. But, I lost $400 last night playing poker. We spent $250 to go see a hockey game tomorrow. I'm going to have 100 times more fun doing the hockey game than I am for poker. So I know, like everything, it's kind of
because I'm going to be there too.
Yeah, well, it is. That's 100% plus up there. It's just a matter of finding out what success looks like for you. And it really is, at least for me, sitting down and writing that out and saying, what do I feel like success looks for me? So I'll share 2 things that I wrote down in my heartfelt centered journal. And one was that I am the biggest bottleneck in my business. And for my business to succeed, I don't need to be anywhere in that decision-making chain except for the initial idea and authorization. Once it's done, other people can handle that for me. I'm not good at that part. Let someone else do it. The other thing is, you got these hustle and grind bros and let's work 14-hour days, 7 days a week, can't stop, won't stop, I want it more than you, 10X, bro, all of those things. Mm-hmm. I want to get to the point where I'm working 1 week a month. I want 3 weeks where virtually, of course it won't be perfect, but I get left the hell alone. I go to concerts, I go live my life, I go travel, I do whatever it is that I want to do during that time. And then when I come back for that week, when it's really focused and intense and we, record podcasts or we shoot videos or we do whatever it is, the thing that we want to do, that's when all the sausage is made. But in order to have that sausage made, you got to go find the ingredients, which for me is living life and travel and experimenting and, fucking off. For me to be successful, I need lots and lots of fuck off time. Now, are they ever going to do a Princeton review of my time management secrets and hacks? And will I ever be confused with Tim Ferriss? Absolutely not. But that's what success looks like to me. It's not the money, because the money will not fix you. Okay. And I also will tell you this, if you're struggling and you're living paycheck to paycheck and you don't have any money in the bank, I understand what I'm telling you by saying money won't fix you is totally preposterous to your mind. I will tell you, as a dude who had $6,000 in credit card debt, minus $60 in the bank, and started his business with $200 to go to multiple 6 figures, right? My friend Luke hates that. 6 figures in revenue and profit in a very record amount of time and make more money than my parents ever did combined in their life together. It still did not fix who I was as a person, as evidenced by 2015 to now. But if you focus on what's going to make you happy, what success looks like to you, and 2 things that will help, at least has helped me, is 1, look for someone that has the lifestyle that you want. We have a mutual friend. He's like a brother to me, call him Therio. He gave me that tip, and it's true. It's like, I love the money that I see Russell making. I love a lot of things about his lifestyle, except the major thing, which is the work and time and effort involved to do it. So I would never want to emulate Russell, not because I don't think he's smart and brilliant.
I wouldn't want to emulate that guy. He's busy. Let's face it.
Yeah.
He's not taking 3 weeks off a month to.
Yeah, he's definitely not going, hey, I'm going to log off the internet for 3 weeks. And, yeah, right. This guy, and again, that's what that level of success dictates and requires. You can't be the president of the United States and just be like, stop asking me questions and leave me alone type thing. So you got to find a lifestyle or a person or whatever makes you happy and try and find a mentor, if you will, or someone else that's doing it so you can ask questions and be like, hey, how do you do that? And then the second thing is, if you don't know what you want to do, start writing a list of shit you don't want to do. I don't want to wear a suit and tie every day. I don't want to be required to dress business casual. I'm not getting up anywhere close to 8. I went to bed at 8 a.m. this morning, Las Vegas time, which is 10 a.m. my time, right? Again, Russell's not doing that. Russell didn't spend all day in bed going like, I hate my life. I'm such a fucking idiot. What was I thinking? But that's fine. because I'm happy with it. And again, it's what success kind of looks like for me, and what ultimately I hope success looks like when I'm finished. And also understand, like, I don't know how I'm going to get there. I have these 2 goalposts, and I know the end result, but I don't know is it going to be information marketing? Is it going to be photography? Is it going to be some brand new thing that we discover? Who knows? But all I know is whatever I do has to be in service towards that final goal. So I would never, I don't want to say never, it'd be real tough for me to be, if Russell called me tomorrow and say, hey, I want you to take over as CEO of ClickFunnels, and we're going to pay you X number of millions of dollars, I would probably turn that down, because it just wouldn't be for, I'm like, hey man, you're not getting 40 hours a week from me.
Right.
You know, like, yeah.
That would not be a good fit for you.
Yeah, it would just, but I know that. So, and I also, again, know, hey, that doesn't fit towards the long-term goal. How the hell could I, you know? So sometimes by having your list of shit that you don't want to do, it helps eliminate. And that's what a lot of it is. And again, just because you eliminate it doesn't mean it's wrong. It just means it's wrong for you. You know, I'm not a fan of MLM marketing. I have my own opinions. I think it's bullshit. People are wasting their money, time, energy, et cetera, et cetera. But there are a lot of people that make millions of dollars. And it's like, I have to get to the point, just like you're going to have to get to the point that goes, yeah, hey, that looks good, but that's not for me, for whatever the reason may be.
I like that idea. The list of what you don't want.
Yeah, well, because sometimes you're like, I don't know what I want. It's like, well,
Right.
cool. We'll start making a list of the shit you don't want. Because I guarantee you, if you ask someone to tell you what's going good in your life, some people would really struggle to tell you good things, you know? I mean, dude, if you caught me at 4 o'clock in the morning last night going, all right, Tim, stop. You just lost $400 at the poker table. Tell me what's going on with your life. It's like, fuck you. Like, I mean, I literally was going back in the deep cuts last night with my friend. I was like, my wife left, you just start playing that record in your head of all your misgivings and misdoings and all your justifications of why things aren't going right, instead of being like, well, I had the money to lose. I'm still alive. I have a chance to do it. So, again, I've talked about it a lot. Sue, I'm curious for you, what are your overall thoughts when it comes to success and what you think or how you're able to determine success? Because you have the added dynamic of parenting, and that seems like super hyper competitive. And like I've got a friend, he's got a 5-year-old kid, and this kid is in baseball lessons with like a college pro athlete, Jeez. And I'm just like, and they're mad at him because he won't pay attention. And I'm like, he's 5, that's why he won't do it. But there's just so much pressure.
There's so much pressure.
Yeah.
I'm probably like the anti-parent because I was never one of those parents that signed my kids up for like a million different things. I was more like, do what makes you happy, kids. I didn't, now mind you, like they did try T-ball or whatever, but they didn't love it. So I didn't force them into it, And then, my kids are pretty creative. So I was like, I'm not going to do an art class, draw at home.
But was that tough, like as a parent? Was that tough to stay steady in that direction when you saw, helicopter parents and type A parents that are like, little Timmy's going to go to ballet on Monday and piano, and you not go, well, maybe they're like,
Yes.
I get on my friend all the time. I'm like, hey, dude, like your son is not going pro next year. Like you need to catch a breath, right? And I was telling my dad about this. I was like, man, this guy is like hardcore about it. And he was like, well, at least he cares enough about his son to do that. And it's like, oh, I never even thought about that. That it was like, I love my son so much that I want to give him all these opportunities.
Right.
But to do what you did, I think takes a lot of courage because, again, everyone else is like, well, what do you mean they're not playing? They played T-ball last year and like, oh, they're not into it. It's like, yeah, but they're playing it this year because I want them to.
Exactly. Yes, I want them to. Like, you're going to play it and you're going to like it. But
yeah. Well, so was that tough for you as a parent to be steadfast, I guess, in your decision there?
There's definitely, especially in the town that I live in, there's a lot of it's such a sports town too. That's the other thing. Like, if
yeah,
you don't
dude,
play sports,
in Texas,
forget about it.
If you're not playing high school football, what the fuck is wrong with you? Yeah,
right. So, I mean, I kind of encourage the kids, but first of all, for me, like, I'm more of a creative type anyway. I mean, I was such a geek, so I couldn't really relate to that sports thing.
Right.
So maybe I was kind of like, I'm not falling into that, but definitely yes. There's that like competition thing. Oh, I got to keep up.
Well, like my I don't have kids, but my friend will be like, "Oh, well, we got to go to Julie's birthday party this weekend because if we don't, then Julie won't come to our kid's birthday party."
Oh,
It's just
yeah,
all, and again, it's a lot of I don't want to do this shit, but I have to
Yes.
because this is what success looks like as a parent: is
Yeah.
spending every waking second going to kids' birthday parties and every waking second, going to 15 different activities. And
I do remember that, and and when the kids are little, they're like, "You got to invite like the whole class
Yeah.
to the birthday." I'm like,
Yeah.
"What's that about? You do?" And
Yeah.
but that's the thing, and I'm like, "Okay, I got to invite the whole class. You got to like do these like goodie bag things.
Oh,
'cause
yeah.
everybody else is
Oh, yeah.
doing it." I'm
Yeah.
like, oh my god.
And then it's like, well, Alex had it at the swim park. Why are we
Yes.
going to just have it at the house?
Yeah,
That's
no,
lame.
kid, yep.
Yeah,
Lame.
Yeah.
That's true.
We're just going to have cake and no balloons and no clown and no pony and no yeah.
I have forgotten a little about that because my kids are a little older, but I remember.
Well, I
that.
only remember. I only know that because I see my friend going through it, and it's
Yeah.
just I'm just like, what is happening to you? It's just and it's go 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 go. But again, if that's what he determines to be successful, then good on him for doing that. But I do feel like a lot of that is stress from external forces saying, hey, this is what you need to do.
Yes, and especially when your kids, they're like, "Oh, my buddy had his birthday party." It's like, and of course, as a parent, you like want to give everything to your kids, so there's that struggle. But
yeah, I think that's why I don't have kids because I couldn't imagine that struggle of trying to figure out and navigate that whole water and then having the self awareness and the self assurance, I guess, just being sound in your actions. And
Right.
The other thing is to tell you this, guys. Okay, I thought, let me buy the fancy house, let me make the money, let me buy the new cars. This will fix all that ails me, because that's what I thought success was. And then you get to it and you go, this ain't it, Chief. It's okay to change directions. Now, if you change directions every 90 days, it's a problem. But if you get to the top of the mountain or where you think the top of the mountain is and you don't like the view, you can get the fuck off the mountain. Like, I'm not buying fancy cars, fancy homes. For me, I want low overhead, lots of money for travel and experiences.
right, yeah, weren't you just talking about that the other day
yeah.
about finding a place in the mountains
Oh,
or
yeah.
whatever?
Yeah,
or-
I mean, I would love nothing more than find like a small house in the
Yes.
woods and just be like, leave me the fuck alone. And then when I want to come out from hibernation, I will do that, But again, all my friends are like, what? Like I even talked about, as a wild thing, I was looking into possibly buying a boat and living aboard a boat in a dock for a couple months in a new town before I bought a house or got an apartment or whatever it may be, just to get the experience of it. And all my friends were like, "Well, you're gonna do what?" Like, oh my, like I couldn't do that.
God forbid.
My friend that's the parent with the kids. I remember when we were going right out of college, we were both struggling, had no money. I drove a Chevy Cavalier. He drove a brand new pickup. I'm like, hey, man, you can sell that, buy a USS shipbox for a couple months, make some money, then, pay and do all. I can't. I have to have a truck. It's like, well, I mean, are you picking up bales of hay and cattle and all that? No, in case.
Just in case. Yes.
And a lot of what we do in life, I feel like, is just in case. And some of that's good and justified. Other of it just isn't. So I think it's important. And it's also because of what we're doing here and planning and stuff like that, that it's always important to sit down and go, ultimately, what is it at the end of the day? What is it that I'm headed towards? What is it that I would like to do? And then is what you're doing match up with it or does it not? And if it doesn't, grace, mercy on yourself. It's okay. You got sold a bag of goods. Think about the millions and probably by now billions of dollars spent by colleges and the education industry to convince everyone that graduates high school that you need a college degree.
Oh, yeah.
And I'll tell you, when
crazy.
I got my bachelor's degree, and the last class we had to take was like a testing class, all that, and they bring the dean in, and he goes, y'all think you've done something. Y'all got your bachelor's degree, and you think you've done something. Well, look around, and look how many thousands of people just got their bachelor's degree. So what you really need is your master's degree. And let me tell you about your master's degree program, right?
Let me sign you up for that right now.
You know what he probably does? He leaves that class and goes into the master's degree program and go, look around, y'all.
Yep.
You just got your master's degree. Look how many people got that. What you need is a PhD, And, PhD, well, you got to be, there's always going to be another rung to the ladder if you want to keep climbing it. But it's also okay to say, I'm getting off this ride. Like, I don't want to have a car payment forever. I don't want to have a house payment forever. I like paying shit off, owning it, and then not having to worry about it, you know? That's what success looks like to me. So, and if success is bottle service, VIP at clubs, you know, private jets, if that's what success is to you and that fulfills you and that's what you want to do, rock on with your bad self. The juice is not worth the squeeze to me in a lot of those cases. And ultimately, my peace of mind, my stress-free life as much as I can build it, and my enjoyment of life is paramount to anything that financially I could eclipse. And one last thing I'll leave you with, you know, I mentioned the Dan Sullivan program I did. I spent 16 grand over 2 years to learn a few interesting things. This was one of them. The lady that taught it, it's all taught by current, Dan Sullivan students. And this lady was the largest financial planner, wealth planner in Dallas. And she worked with like only CEOs and major movie, television, and sports people. Like, I think you had to have $5 million to even like get a cup of coffee with her.
Really? Okay.
And she was big into finding out, okay, Sue, you make the money. How long does that money last? How many generations does that last? So if I said to you, let's just say you had $50 million. How many generations do you think that would last your family? So your children, their children.
Yep.
How many generations deep do you think it would go? I'm just curious.
Oh, that's a great question. 5 maybe?
76% of the wealth accumulated by one generation is spent by the following generation.
Really? So like one generation.
One generation.
Wow.
You make the money, your kids blow it. And that was her big thing, and a big shift in her teaching and impact was, we need to teach these kids about money. Mom and dad clearly got it figured out because they're coming to see us, but we want to make sure that money stays there.
That's a great point.
But think about that. You work, you know, I drove a shitty Chevy Cavalier. I lived in a house that got broken in 3 times. You know, I didn't go out to eat. I don't spend money on. I did all of this sacrifice because I was trying to get to this greater goal. Then you do all that. You die, and then the next generation pisses it all away.
That's terrible.
What was all of that struggle for? And ultimately, was that what you really wanted to do? Or did you, I mean, you don't see it very often, but you do see it occasionally where they'll go into like this poor person's home. They'll be dead, you know, and they'll open up a cabinet and it's full of $1 million in cash. And it's like people that just save and they hoard it. It's just like, you know, because they just feel like that's what I need to do is just die with as much money as possible, even if I'm not paying the heat bill and, you know, taking 2 ply and separating into 1 ply, you know. So that's the other thing is, you know, so many people, and especially in our industry, I'm building a legacy and an impact. Well, you know who else thought he was building a legacy? Tom from MySpace. Right? Friendsters.
That meme.
Blockbuster Video.
Yep.
You know, that owner probably thought that he was doing that. Nokia. You know, guys, there was a time when you wanted to buy a cell phone.
Nokia. That's a blast from the past.
You bought a Nokia. I mean, there was one point where they literally, I think like 99% of cell phones were coming from Nokia. Now, it's a joke. It's like, oh, you got a Nokia. Like, what is that? Like, you know, does it have Snake on it? So my whole point is, you know, don't just think about now, but think about the lasting impact that you want. Now, are there people in this world that make lasting impacts? Absolutely. You know what those folks are? The exception to the rule. And if you're an exception to the rule, I can't wait for my children's children to learn about you. But for every Ben Franklin, there's 1 million Nikola Teslas, you know, and 1 million people that at the day and time were probably the hottest shit ever imagined. Like, to give a real world example, and this will date the podcast, but I don't give a shit. Those 2 fuck boys from Florida, the Island Boys, you know, they're like, Island Boy, right? It is these 2 singers. They're 2 white kids that have dreads. They got diamonds all in their teeth and all that stuff. It was the hottest shit for 2 weeks. Then the next thing you see about them, they're here in Las Vegas at Aria doing a performance. They get booed off the stage because they're fucking terrible. And now it's a joke and it's a laugh. Tiger King, you know, was a big thing. You know, in 10 years, you'll be like, remember Tiger King? People are like, what? What was that?
What?
What's what? Oh, who, how? So these are just all things to think about, over copious amounts of coffee and cannabis, if that's your thing, maybe some red wine, and just start thinking. And when you meet somebody or you see something you like, write it down. If you see something you don't like, definitely make a mental note, write it down, and ultimately, hopefully, you find the success that makes you happy so that you too can be wearing a robe after sleeping all day, after playing poker till 7 o'clock in the morning, and loving life because you get to do something that's fun with someone that you enjoy the company with, and that hopefully will help and inspire others out there. And the way that I'll know that it helped and inspired you is because you'll take the time to like this video, to leave a comment, to give me 5 stars. I need fake internet points for imaginary validation in social situations. So I need you, as Gary Vee says, to provide that oxygen to me in the way of comments and likes and reviews and shares and whatever else you want to do to tell people, hey, this podcast, not that bad. Goes a little hard at the tender hose, but, definitely rambles a little bit. Might be good if he, spent 5 minutes doing an outline. But if you can overlook all of that and his COPD / vape, breathing patterns, there might be something to it. So I thank you as always for listening to this. I promise, we try to keep it fun and light, but I got shit to share and I want to share it with you guys. And I think it's important that, if I was taken off this earth tomorrow, I got a few things I wanted to share. And also, I love keeping you guys updated on what's going on in my life and whatever wacky and crazy adventures that we get into, including heading off to the 60-plus bikers bar. We will give you a full report, I'm sure.
We'll let you know if Tim finds a date there tonight.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, I will be in there.
Lucky night,
I'm going to set my Tinder distance to 1 mile.
Yes.
Yeah, inside of that place and see if Grandma, I can get a little AARP action.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't wait. Full report on the next one if there's anything worth reporting. I hope you're having a great week. Keep your head up. Keep going. One step in front of the other. If other people are doing better than you, you're looking at the wrong fucking thing. It doesn't matter what other people are doing. It just matters how far you've come. And I'll share this. You may think, oh, Tim, and I guess I think of Eeyore because I'm Eeyore, Everything's going wrong. My life sucks. I'm so miserable. I'm unhappy. And you may think, well, Tim, I'm a fucking loser. I've been a fucking loser my whole life. Well, I have some knowledge to share with you, friend, and that is this. When your father, or some of you refer to as sperm donor or whatever, inside your mother, millions of sperm were released, right? Right, Sue's over there trying not to laugh, right? But he's like, right when he did
that's the sound it makes. I always wondered about that.
Yeah. It's like, why does it always sound like a lion roar? Yeah, right. It sounds like the Lion King, where Mustafa, is that his name, gets fucking thrown off the ledge and like, right. So after that happens, right. You and about 1 million of your brothers and sisters started making the journey to find the egg, and guess what? You fucking beat them all. You were the winner.
Winner, chicken dinner.
You beat out millions of your fellow brothers and sisters to get there. And guess what? You were born healthy, right? And you've survived up to this point. And if you think that's not an accomplishment, look around the world, right? How many times you see in India, a boat collapsed and 300 people killed. And they're like, and in other news, bread tastes delicious. And you're like, what the fuck? You're already a winner, and you've already made some progress in your life. You may not be where you want to be, but as long as you're making meaningful progress towards it, and it's okay if you got to catch your breath and pause. Look, the last 5 years, I wish I could lie to you and say oh man, I've been a freight train and I've been working and hard. The last 5 years have been so discombobulated, big word for you, for me, that part of 2022 was the same thing I planned on 2020 and the same thing I was hoping in 2021, which is to get back on the straight and narrow path and marching forward to those goals. And I do so having a much better understanding of my success, what success looks like to me, and ultimately what's going to fulfill and make me happy. And I don't care if I die penniless with the biggest smile on my face, or other people disapprove, or people don't like what it is that I'm doing, because I'm only trying to make one fucking person happy, and that's Tim Castleman. And you should do everything within your power to make me happy as well. Leave a review, make a comment, share with the friends. I promise we'll do better next time. We're off to go eat some Salisbury steak that's probably been broiled so the people with fake teeth don't lose any. We'll see you on the next one.